You're listening to the Grown and Growing podcast with Sonia and Roberta. Welcome back to the Grown and Growing podcast. I'm Sonia.
And I am Roberta.
So I have been actually dreading this conversation. I know it's been a long time coming. Not dreading, but I'm glad that we took some time between the election and when we're about to record it. So we are, close to Trump being inaugurated, very close. And we wanted to have this conversation about how Black women plan to move forward, right? How are we moving forward? What lessons have we learned from this election that we are taking forward in our own lives? Like me and you, what did we learn and how are we changing how we move? And then just a conversation about how Black women as a whole have responded to election results.
Right.
So,
or just the state of affairs now that we're like on the other side.
I feel like we haven't, in our lifetime, we have not been in a moment like this before. Can you think of a moment where you're like, oh, this is going to be bad?
I mean, it's always been on the edge of bad, but not quite this bad.
Yeah, it seems
it's getting progressively worse. Yes.
Yeah, I remember when George Bush got elected and we were like, this is it. He's the worst. But really, he was just a goofball. And he really did do some terrible things.
Yeah.
But back then, he was the worst it could get. But clearly,
we bottomed out as a country.
Exactly. They were like, hold my beer.
Right.
We can show you how bad it can get. I want to start off by talking about, we've never talked about this. I want to know what your reaction was to the election results back in November.
I mean, I was disappointed, right? I can't say I was like fully surprised. Yeah, it was just like, all right, it's just nothing that this country does within the like political realm or just in general, to be honest with you, surprises me anymore. I think for me, when we get into the pandemic and see how we all just as people and the government and policy reacted to that, I was just like, nothing can surprise me after that. I mean, I think the biggest thing was disappointment.
Right. I think for me, I feel like I went through it in phases. I feel like it really hit me harder than what I thought because I actually felt hopeful. And I know, some people out there are like, oh, I can't believe you felt hopeful. You should have known. But it's like, I did. I felt hopeful. I felt like, ain't no way y'all gonna do this again. And it's funny. And it's funny because I think it's because of how I've curated my social media, the podcasts that I listen to. I just surround myself with like-minded people.
You're in your little bubble.
I was in my bubble. And
bubble.
I would talk to Derek and he would be like, I don't know. I think Kamala going to lose. And I think it's going to be Black women. I said, what? Yeah, I know. First of all, his social media feed is trash. I'd be like, what is this? It's a lot of yelling and fighting on his feed. But yeah, he would say, he's like, I don't know. It's not looking good. And I'd be like, no, it's fine. It's going to be close, but I think she's going to pull it out. I actually felt hope. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to feel bad about that because I'm not a jaded person. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having hope. Right. But I did. I was like, to me, it was like a slap in the face. It was like, that people don't think as a race that Black people ain't hot. We think we're hot. We think we the best. I don't know how people think any differently about us, but they do. And it was a reminder just how much people do not care about Black people or Black women or people of color for that matter. Anybody who's not a white male, heterosexual male, right. People do not care. This country does not care about it. And it was never more evident. Like we got, not glimpses, but we've been told like in a like whisper, but to me, it was like very clear, like, girl, you don't matter. And I actually felt my first feeling was, all right, I just got to protect my family. That's it. F everybody else. What do I got to do to make sure my family is good? And that was my first reaction. Like, don't ask me for nothing. It's just, how do I protect the people in this house to make sure that they're good? And then it was like, you know what? I don't want to watch nothing news, nothing about the election. I didn't want to dissect the results with anybody. And I'm a news junkie. So I do like that kind of information, that kind of news is in my feed every day. I listen to podcasts. I read stuff. I just like it. Couldn't do it. It was all, I was like, show me, where are all the Netflix shows? Where are all the mysteries, the series? What did I not watch?
Getting out of reality a little bit. So that's interesting. I mean, what I'm hearing, and maybe, I don't know, this is like also through my own lens of whatever, but like, it seems like you more so were taking it personal, like the fact that this country did not see the credibility and the validity of having a Black woman in this role as president, and having the country reject her also was rejecting Black women, and you in particular as a Black woman. Like, was it
For
any
sure.
of that in there? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I do. I do take it personally. Because to me, it couldn't have been more clear. It couldn't have been more clear if you were a good person. And it's kind of like what you see every day, but magnified times 10. Like, Trump can't do enough, be terrible enough. Like, he was the worst. We all know he's the worst. He said bad things about everybody. All of these things that he's demonstrated with his behavior. And we knew the first time, we suspected.
Kind of knew. Well,
we kind of knew. But
so it was a confluence of many things.
Yeah, it was you chose this criminal over a educated, smart woman. Now, you may not have liked Kamala. Like, you may have thought like she probably wasn't the best thing since, sliced bread. Maybe she wasn't your ideal candidate, but she was certainly better than Donald Trump. Certainly. And they chose Donald Trump over her, and that offended me and my homegirls, apparently.
Right. Let's talk.
Because
we came out and we voted a certain way. So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah. Black women wrote for Kamala. We were 10 toes down. Like, we are already considered to be a very reliant, voting bloc for the Democratic Party. So I don't think that people were surprised that Black women would go for her like we did. But 92%, which is the number that's going around. But let me just.
Right. I see this number everywhere.
It's like being a club. It's like another sorority. It's like another sorority. The 92%.
Right. The 92%. Right.
Except I can't really find where the 92%
Not a
came
nary
from.
part of the internet have I found any stat backing up 92%.
I don't know what it. First of all, like, if you're listening, you know where the 92% number came from. Send us a link. Like, we need a link because I couldn't find it.
I need some sort of like reputable source of saying 92% of what of Black women.
The closest thing I found was 92% of women, Black women in exit polls said that they voted for Kamala. The number that I found of people Black women who actually voted for Kamala was 89%. And that was Associated Press. That was other news sources put the number at 89. So I don't really know. But look,
I mean, 89 is not that far from 92. However, I'm like, we are wearing this 92% like a badge of honor, but it's not actually, I haven't found it to be statistically sound. But anyway,
if Donald Trump could be president, we could have a 92% child.
Let's take 92%. Sure.
I don't care. I'm part of the 92%. You're part of the 92% accepted. If you have the data, send it to me because I actually do want to see it.
Right.
I also looked at, the breakdown of women voters overall, right? They break down voters every which way. But I was curious to see what the women electorate looked like in the United States. So I looked up white women. White women make up 40% of eligible voters. Black women make up 6% of eligible voters. And Latina women make up 5% of eligible voters. So
that's a small number.
Yeah,
when you're looking at like all the who votes in this country.
Yeah, and even when you add us together, we still don't quite. We're not even half of what the white women electorate is or voter.
But again, we have all this hope and all this we rally and we go so hard, thinking that we're going to make a change. When if we're only looking at like the fruits of our own labor or the potential fruits, it's still really small.
Yeah, it's definitely clear that if we're to get people in the office who favor, actually, I don't even want to say favor us, as in favor Black people. Just common sense, just favor equity, fairness, who don't put rich people over, middle class people or poor people. Like, if you just want that, you're going to need more than Black women. You're going to need more than Latino women right? You need men, you need a little bit of everybody to make a difference. Now, Asian women, they ain't even in here. Are they with the white women? Where did they put the Asians? I guess they
That is a good point. I don't know. Where are the Asian women?
right, they not in here. Sorry, y'all.
Sorry.
You didn't make the cut for AP. But white women voted for Trump 53%. Child, 53% of white women voted for Trump.
Yo, I remember. So right after the election, I'm sure you saw this about the virtue signaling. The women who they started making the bracelets or something.
Oh,
those blue bracelets to signify to other people, women, black women, that they were part of the, what is that, 45% who voted for Harris.
Oh my God.
Girl, that was short-lived, thankfully, because
that
I'm
must
like,
have been when I was on my break, because
you didn't
did
see
not
that?
No.
They were selling them on Etsy. I cannot. Anyway.
No, I don't want no blue bracelet. Show me in the freaking booth. That's what I care about. Y'all always want to do this performative stuff.
Right.
Nobody care. Anyway, I think there are a lot of reasons why Black women rode for Kamala. For one, common freaking sense. To me, it's very clear. And I know people will say, it was the economy. It was the economy. It was immigration. I feel like that's bullcrap. I think it's an excuse.
Well, I mean, people's comments that, well, we all know that, common sense ain't that common, but it's all going to be relevant, like, to your particular situation. Like, if the economy and your money and your pockets and financial situation, if that's like what takes up the majority of your mind space, then the common sense thing to do is to vote in ways that support that. So, like, I can't necessarily say that if I had to say, play devil's advocate, like, what's common sense to us should be common sense to everybody. I will say that I think that, like, the issues and the things that we fight for, and I say we as women, as Black women, would benefit everybody.
It would. It totally would. But, I mean, I do feel like that people use the economy as an excuse, because what did Trump do that made the economy so great back when he was president? I mean,
girl, if I hear one more thing about these stimmy checks,
right? Anyway, back to why Black women rallied for Kamala. There was so much excitement around her. There was the win with Black women. Then it was win with comedians, and win with white women, and win with win. Well, now, where was all these people to actually help her win? Like, it's so frustrating.
Yeah.
But we did all this organizing around her. And again, right, even though she was not, to me, like everybody's ideal candidate, I think she was highly qualified to take the job. Highly qualified, not just over Trump, but over previous presidents. She has more experience than a lot of presidents that we voted for, in my lifetime, and she was qualified. And so to me, that's all that mattered. But because of all that rallying, because I think we had all allowed ourselves to hope that in 2024 that we would somehow get it right. We didn't get it right with, Hillary Clinton. And we're like, maybe we learned a lesson. We didn't learn a lesson. We didn't. Because her not getting elected was the straw that broke the camel's back. That was it.
For Kamala or for Hillary?
For Black women, that was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of us being this involved and this committed to the electoral process in the United States, I guess. Just believing in it. I think I never experienced where Black women was like, that's it, taking a break.
Well, I think it's to your earlier point about, like, we saw so much of ourselves and our struggles and everything that's important to us, from policy to issues and everything. We saw and projected a lot of that onto Kamala. And yeah, we kind of set ourselves up for disappointment there a little bit. I think, if I'm honest, I think it's a perfect storm of a lot of things. It's going through everything we did in the last election with Hillary and backing a woman, because I feel like Black women then even went hard for, this is a woman and she has our best interests and like all the things, and so we did that, and we've done all the things in between, and we just got to a point with this where I think the disappointment comes in more personally, because we've taken it more as a personal rejection.
Right. And I also think people lied
about what?
About who they were voting for. So there was this hope.
Yeah. We'll never know, but yeah, I'm sure.
We'll never know, but I feel like people were like, nah, like undecided. Oh,
Well, also they
well,
had a
I'm
lot of people didn't
excited.
vote.
Yes, actually, you're right about that.
Yeah.
You're right about that. Trump didn't win because there was an overwhelming amount of support for him. He actually won because I think it was like 10 million voters didn't vote this
Right.
election.
Right.
10
Right.
million voters who voted for Biden in the last election or didn't vote in this election. You can
Right.
look, we're not a news podcast, so
No, we don't
you
want to be.
may fact check that for yourself, but that's about right.
Right. So, okay, so considering all of that, right,
Yeah.
and looking at like this for a lot of people, for a lot of Black women, that this election, like this happening, this event has been the limit. We've been pushed to our limit. We are done. And why is that? Like, why was this thing the thing that triggered that? Um, and of course, since November, there's been a whole bunch of different, clips going around, think pieces, like all of that. The one thing that actually resonated with me, there's this one clip of Trevor Noah, who he actually recorded, I think like 2-3 years ago, where he was talking about Black women. And the reason why we go so hard is because we know what's at stake. We know what's at risk if things don't go the right way, right? And we can't afford for things to not go in that direction. And actually, I kind of want to play that clip so just everybody has that context and that reference.
Okay, let's play that clip.
Yeah.
I always tell people, if you truly want to learn about America, talk to Black women. Yeah, because unlike everybody else, Black women cannot afford to around and find out. Black people understand how hard it is when things go bad, especially in America, but any place where Black people exist, whether it's Brazil, whether it's South Africa, wherever it is, when things go bad, Black people know that it gets worse for them. But Black women in particular, they know what shit is, genuinely. People always be shocked. They'll be like, why do Black women turn out the way they do in America? Why do they vote the way yeah, because they know what happens if things do not go the way it should. They cannot afford to around and find out. And
so in that, the huge takeaway is that we cannot afford to go the wrong way. We cannot afford to go down the wrong path. And so as a country, because all of that's going to trickle down and hit us as a community. As our families, it's going to get like from the smallest to the biggest levels. We all kind of know that. And I think that is the underlying piece of that. The other underlying sentiment is that like we as Black women are the workhorse of this country. For generations, present day, we are the people that will come in and take care of everything. We'll clean everything up. We'll make everything, good again. We'll make, we'll put everything back together. We are the people that would be like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it.
Right. We'll hold things. We'll hold it together.
We'll hold it
not
together.
just put it back together. We will single-handedly
hold it together.
Hold
From
the family down.
The family, the community. And I see this in corporate all the time, in government and policy. Yes. And I think that constant being disappointed with this because we saw ourselves so personally that we just like we can't, it's too much. But I really want to dig into that notion of a workhorse,
right?
And explore like how do we get that reputation. And I'm sure we can take most things back to slavery in this country.
I mean, honestly, how can you not? The country was started that way. The country that we know and the path that we're on today as a quote unquote superpower, it started with slavery. So I feel like it's only fair to go back to that.
We were the mammies and we took care of the kids and the land and the thing and the cooking and the cleaning and all of the things. And we're not that far off generationally from all that. And yeah, it's both internally and externally put on us. I say externally, yes, because we just have this expectation that we're going to take care of everything. But I also feel like it's also culturally, internally, that we have to be strong. We have to be the person that steps up and do the thing. And when nobody else is going to do it, we have to step in. And
I think that role in society, the ones who have to hold it together, I think the ones who have to, be there for ourselves, because I think what we experience more than any other group, at least, is that no one is coming to save us, right?
Right.
We are at the intersection between, being a woman and being Black. We have both of those things. And it's just people put us, not that we see ourselves that way, but people put us at the bottom of the totem pole. And so we have become a group to rely on ourselves, right? And I know, me personally, I know for myself, and I know I have the support of my friends and my husband and my family, but ultimately, I know if I want something changed, I got to do it. I got to change it. And I think that, it's a persona that we adopted kind of out of desperation, out of survival, but we keep, now it's like a badge of honor. I know we talked about that in another podcast that's coming out, but yeah.
Why do we do that? Is that because that's the only way we feel validated? Is that the only way that we feel seen? Is if we, seen for our strength? Is that our only redeeming quality?
Yeah, I think to me, it's like making lemons out of lemonade. I think number one is first and foremost is survival. And then it's thriving. Like, how do you just thrive despite what you've been through, despite what is foisted upon you? How do you still find a way to thrive? And I also think that it is, taking, things that can be seen as a negative and turning it into a positive, right? Your strength. Your strength is what is admirable about Black women, right? But the more that we evolve as women, the more that we learn, the more that we know that we're multidimensional, right? We're not just strong women. We are fragile. We do break, right? We do have a breaking point. So while I think part of the reason Black women are saying we're taking a step back is because we realize we're multidimensional. We don't have to be this one thing, not even to the United States, not even to other people of color who don't want that for themselves. We know what we want. And I think because of that realization about the power we have to be both hard and soft and intellectual, like, I think that's the reason we saying, all right, enough is enough. We are,
right.
We're taking a step back from that. And I don't necessarily, I wouldn't call us the workhorses. Like, I don't know if that's the word I would use for it.
What word would you use, or what description for us as a whole Black women in this country?
I would say that we are either the backbone, I was going to say the heart, but I'm like, what else?
Heart implies and also backbone implies respect and reverence.
Well, that's, I mean, I'm also saying that's the brain.
Girl.
I'm like, what's better than the heart? I think it's the brain. I think it's the conscience. I think we are the conscience of America that America don't pay attention to.
That part, don't pay attention to.
I think we are, because think about it. Think about Trevor Noah's clip.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the position we're in, we are uniquely able to experience the country in ways that other people can't. We experience it in a way similar to what Latino people experience, in a way that, white women experience. Like, we can relate to every other racial and ethnic group out there. We can relate to them because we've been there. We've been in their shoes. And I think that gives us a lot of empathy. I think that gives us a lot of perspective. And I think it gives us a lot of, we're able to see the bigger picture where other people can't. And I think it's because we are uniquely positioned in this way in this country. It's like, I was going to say woke, but it's like we have this awareness that we can tap into, and that we've been able to tap into, that, as a collective, I would say most of us. Now, I'm just saying, speaking for everybody, there was 8% that didn't vote.
This is by no means speaking for everyone, and not for nothing. The lens that I have, and I think that you have too, is that Black women over 40, you know what I mean? We have been experiencing this country, experiencing corporate America. We have been building communities and families, personally, for over 20 years, directly, as an adult.
We sound grown. We sound like we grown.
Very grown.
Okay.
And I think that perspective also is a part of all right, why this particular event, this election, was triggering it to the point of tapping out. I'm tired, boss. I'm going to sit down and y'all can have it. for now. I do think, and what I've observed over the last couple of months is that, like, I do think there's a certain level of that sentiment across most Black women. I have noticed that, like, for younger, I would say, like, Black women in their 20s, they're approaching it more from the perspective of, okay, we took a hit here, things are going to be rough, we just need to do some self-care before we get back at it.
Yeah.
Versus women who have been around this block multiple times in this country are just like, get somebody else to do it.
Get somebody else to do it.
Because it's too much. And so, but that's not a good place to be either, because first of all, we still got to live in this country. We still got to move around.
That's
and
exactly
exist.
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I was going to say. Because I actually feel conflicted about the taking a step back. I do not. I agree that women, that we owe ourselves a time to step back, recharge. I don't think that it is practical. I don't think that it is smart to say we ain't doing nothing. Don't call me. Don't write. Don't. We just gonna be
take
over
me
here.
off the list. Take me off the list, sir.
It actually reminds me of that picture that was going around by that Black artist where the Black women were on the roof and the world was burning.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, first of all,
they posted up with drinks or something.
Exactly. Post drinks, watching the fire. Now, this is a terrible, given where we are with the fires in LA. It's a picture
that didn't age well. But
it didn't age well. But as it relates to how we feel about the role that we're playing going forward after this election, I just never jived with that picture. I didn't. I thought, I'm like, now, how does this make sense? How does, like, yeah, you got your group up here, but what about everybody else down there?
Right.
Because the thing is, they're going to get burned. Your family down there, your friends are down there, your community is there.
Right.
There is no stepping back. To me, there is no stepping back. Now, regroup, figure out something else. I actually don't have an answer for what the way is forward, right? Looking at the numbers, looking at how our allies, our quote unquote allies, have betrayed us. To me, it is hard to figure out, like, what is the path forward? I have no idea. But I, in no means, feel like taking a step back in that way. Like, I think we need to define exactly what that is, because I think it's a slippery slope into apathy. And I don't think that we need to be apathetic. We don't.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Do you?
In theory, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, at the same time, like, I can, for myself, there is a marked difference between, I'll just, in the context of the election, right? So in 2017, I was here in DC. I was living here, and for the inauguration, there was a protest organized. I was like on the front lines. I was making the signs, doing that. I was there early. I stayed all day protesting, doing all the things. This time, I honestly don't know if there's a protest. Now, first of all, I'm not even going to. I'm trying to get far away from DC on inauguration weekend. I will not be here. But just even that kind of, like, small example.
Why like, no, ain't gonna be no marching. Who's marching? The bracelet people? Is it them?
You sound like an old Black lady, and I love it. Who's marching? Who are these people? What are they doing? Where are they going?
Is it the bracelet brigade you're talking about?
Oh my God!
Look, I think we need to talk about what is step back. What does it mean to you to step back? Like, when you say you're tired and you say, so no, you ain't gonna march. I agree, because what the hell we marching for? What y'all marching for now? We needed y'all to march back. And also, do marches work still?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation. I don't think so. Protests are good for bringing awareness. I don't think anybody's unaware of the fuckery that's going around, like, is going on in this country. Like,
I think they are aware.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's a lack of awareness is the problem. Like, I think protests do go a long way for, like, bringing awareness to issues, but I don't think that's necessarily needed.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would go if there was a protest, like, I think back in 2020, I think those protests were, I mean, I think I guess it depends, but protesting at no, ma'am, no. I would
when the new issue arises, I may be out there, and there will be. That's why I said when, not if. Like, whenever the new issue that we decide as a collective, and I'm not even talking about just Black women, but just people who care about people and humanity, whenever that issue comes up, then yes, there will be protests and all of the things to bring awareness to that thing. Now, I think also what contributes to this disappointment and just overall like being tired in this country is that we constantly do these things and we bring our energy to bring awareness to these things, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Or something small and performative will happen and it will last for a few months, maybe a year, and then things go right back to normal. And so
and I think that
yeah.
And I think for Trump, look, you gotta get your sleep, drink your water, eat your vegetables, because they're gonna be
buckle up,
taking things
because
left and right. It's gonna be tons of
be
things to protest about. But I think, to me, stepping back, I think this is a prime example. Like, this is, our forever first lady, FLOTUS,
yes,
showed us exactly what that looks like.
yes,
and we all know she said, "I ain't gonna be there. Get somebody else to do it.
Somebody else to do it." Yes.
Sorry, Carter.
And I'm not mad at it.
Hell no. If anybody questions her, and I saw some clip where somebody was calling her, I think it was Kid Rock, like, come on, calling her an angry black woman. Really? She literally said, "I'm not coming," and you call her angry. Angry is not the right word. I think fed up, over it, and not going to co-sign for your BS.
Right.
So I think for me, not overextending yourselves to help, like, right? Like, all right, you guys show me a little bit of something. Are you seriously, like, what are you doing? I'm not, going to overextend myself like anymore. I think, limiting access to your knowledge, your ideas, right? Ensuring, I know Black women will step in a lot of times and, help plan and organize and call, like, when with Black women, prime example.
And shout out to Jataka. I love her. Like, she's a soror and I know her. Like, I love the fact that she put that campaign together. And again, I do think it was very like pertinent to that particular thing that needed to happen. But yeah, I don't know how much of that we need to step up and do.
I think, well, Women Black Women was started before the election, before
Kamala. Yeah, it was started in 2020 by her.
Yeah, it was starting, and it's still going on actually today. So I think there's still room for it, but it's just like access to it, the sharing of ideas and what we're doing. I think there's a focus on what is going to help our community. How can we help our community more? Obviously, I feel like it was, the performative part of it. Michelle Obama is a perfect example. The Women's March is I'm not saying that the Women's March gotta be performative, but,
But it's like all those things, you do it to get attention, which is fine. But then what's going to happen after you garner that attention? And that's like one of the most frustrating things, I think, for me, is that when I step up and put all the energy and effort out there to like rally, because again, well, what was it? Like, we're 6% of the voting population, and we yell and scream and get on our soapbox, and then nobody else wants to do anything.
Yeah.
And so that's the frustrating part, because nothing can happen with just the 6% rallying over here and like jumping up and down and screaming. Right. And let me be clear too, that everything that I'm saying is we're talking about specifically around the election and like politics in this country, but this applies just as equally to corporate situations, just as equally to local community, gathering, fundraising, like all the things. Like, this is the same kind of trope and the same kind of sentiment throughout, from big to small.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right about the allies. We are only 6% of the electorate so far, and we can't do it. And I think, if we want to act, it's like, how do you even trust the coalition, the people who say they're your allies, right? How do you know which one of them that you can trust? Like, we had allies before, and it just doesn't seem to work. And I think that there is when you think about the people who sat out, right? When you think about Black people who sat out the election, it's like, to me, there is a deep distrust in the system. I actually get it when I hear that Black people sit out of the election, because there's a misunderstanding about how the system works and how government works and how it works for you. We have been disenfranchised. So when Black people sit out, I kind of understand why, right? I mean, there are ways that you can educate yourself, but if you're not seeing it in your community, and even some white people, like poor white people who sit out and who don't believe, I get it. College educated, middle class people, who I heard a lot of, people who could vote but don't vote for dumb reasons. I don't get it. Like, that's a privilege that none of us can afford. Like everybody's like, oh, they about to fuck around and find out. Give me my
Right.
popcorn.
Right.
I actually
I
think
might have
that's
been one of those
bad.
people.
Look, yes, everybody is about to fuck around and find out for
Ugh,
sure.
I kind of got my popcorn waiting a little bit.
Everybody about to fuck around and find out, but I don't think it's gonna be funny because I also
Oh,
gonna
because
find out.
we're
And
going to, right. I will be in that find out like group.
yeah, I
Like
don't
we
wanna
all gonna find out.
I didn't even know. Why we gotta find out?
Exactly.
I wish there was exemptions.
But here's the petty part of me, and I will admit this, that like for this kind of context specifically, because I feel like I'm gonna take the hit anyway, as far as like policy or whatever. I'm okay with like taking the hit if y'all take the hit too. Like the people who were so righteous and they were so high and mighty and were just like, no, this is the right thing to do. This is the right direction to go. Economy. The economy is not gonna. It's gonna actually get worse for you. And I would kind of like be okay with taking a little bit of a hit if those
what's a little
people.
bit?
I say a little bit, like whatever.
Tariffs to Handmaid's Tale. Where are you on this? Where are you on the spectrum?
You know what? Honestly, I would if it meant that people would be less ignorant and less selfish. I would take all the hits in the world. Like I said this to someone like recently. It was just like I would take because like for all intents and purposes, like where I fall in the spectrum of like where I land in the tax bracket, like I would probably benefit with some of the more moderate Democrat or like even Republican policies. But like I would take a hit financially if it meant that these people who think that they were making the right decision for themselves financially, if they find out actually no, they were not acting, moving, voting in their own best interest, I would take that hit. Now, I ain't gonna keep doing it.
You ain't gonna have a choice, Roberta. Trump said we don't ever have to vote again if he got elected. But this is my thing. When you were explaining all that, my question was, will perceived economic struggle ever trump racism? Will it? Because I do believe people voted for Trump because they're racist and Trump allows them to be racist, and he is somehow their racism clouds their judgment to see that their enemy is not me. The enemy are the rich folks you put in, and they're the ones suppressing you. But somehow it's my fault. It's undocumented, immigrants' fault. It's everybody else's fault. I don't know if racism will ever overcome that because white people cut off the nose to spite their face since Reconstruction. Like, dude, like that's what they do.
I think there's certain, and again, I'm careful not to just lump all white people into that.
You don't gotta say not all white people. I know,
but
abolitionists. I get it,
but I will say like those two things, they're not mutually exclusive. Like I think that financial security, however that's defined for yourself in this country, and racism, they're very much closely tied because I feel like any person, whether that be a race or gender or whatever, that you perceive will keep you from being financially secure is a problem, is a threat. And so I think what, Trump and his folks in that kind of air, like, what they do a good job of is making sure that those things are like closely tied and saying, because this person is this color, because this person is an immigrant, they're going to jeopardize your financial security. I think that is the
I don't
best.
think people care about their financial security that much.
What? Really?
No.
I think that is what this country is built on.
The country definitely built on capitalism.
But that is comprised of like individuals who that's what they want for themselves. They want to have all their, like, they want to be financially secure.
They want to be superior. They don't want to be financially. So, okay.
That means the same thing.
Okay, fine. I will, for your sake, and for the sake of people who
appease me.
No, I don't want people to think, look, I know that there are, let's say, I have white friends. That's not the point. I think that at some point it will become rich poor. I do think a lot of people will wake up to say, oh my God, the fight is really not about that. I'm still poor, you still poor.
Right, exactly.
But we've been trying to do that for decades. And it's
maybe that's what we need to, the slant we need to take, and not, maybe all the poor folks rally together and we all be like, you know what?
Because the poor folks want to be superior, right? They vote in their against their best interest because they think that they're better than the people who are not like them. And that's not just Black people, that's anybody who's different than them. To me, it's a superiority thing and not a solely economic thing. Because I feel like if it was an economic thing, you could reason with people. You see how these billionaires acting? Because they care about money. They care. They like, oh, kiss the ring. Don't buy this newspaper so we won't have to endorse whatever. They care about money. I don't know. I could be wrong. This is
I don't. It's an interesting dynamic. I think they're a lot more closely tied than your perspective.
Yeah,
and that's fine.
I think when you think about how this country operates, racism, capitalism, like this.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it was
like,
built on that.
We
honestly.
have been brainwashed to think that capitalism is the way. It is the way. But to me, the only reason capitalism works, quote unquote works, is you can't have capitalism without racism. You can't have capitalism.
No, true. I mean, that's why
sexism.
we still have the discrepancies between what the average white man makes per their dollars versus all the different races and everything else and genders. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, that exists.
All right. Well, Gen Z, y'all need to save us. I know y'all kumbaya. I know
Get
y'all have
somebody else to do it.
Right.
Gen
y'all
Z.
have y'all emotional support animals. I need y'all to come together, kumbaya, and fix this.
I just read something the other day that Gen Z is stressed the fuck out, and I get it.
What's after them? What's my kids? What are they?
Gen Alpha?
Gen Alpha, please.
Whew.
And honestly, save us. Save yourselves, actually.
Yeah, okay,
so
all right.
We got to wrap this up, but.
Yes. So, okay, so we talked about, we talked about a little bit, the consequences of not acting, what that means, and, everything's going to fall apart if we, as a collective, as a 92% saying, you know what, y'all are on your own.
Right.
So we can't necessarily do that. But okay, well, what's the other side of that? What's the consequences of action? How do we hold on to hope and still keep up the fight, but then protect ourselves and our own mental and emotional health and financial health and all other things?
Yeah. So take the. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm going to take I thought the outgoing Surgeon General had a really, really good point. I know nobody really pay attention to the Surgeon General. I don't even know what they do for real. I mean, they
tell us what not to eat and drink. And wait, ain't he the one that told us that wine is bad?
Oh, you know what? They put the warnings on the cigarettes. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, the outgoing Surgeon General so first of all, during his tenure as Surgeon General, I forgot his name. I should Google it real quick, but the Surgeon General, during his tenure, he really focused on loneliness in our country. He called it a epidemic, or how about to say a pandemic? An epidemic in the country, and he really talked about the importance of connection. And you have social media, you have AI now coming on, and he really talked about how we need to really foster human connection. And his outgoing message, or his outgoing prescription for Americans, was to find community and was to foster community, and how community is going to be how we save ourselves and the importance of it. And I really, first of all, I really like that. I really appreciated that, even though I can't remember his name, but I really appreciate that sentiment. And I've been thinking about the idea of community a lot. What does it mean? You're right. You're only 6% of the electorate. Black women are only 6% of the electorate. And so what do we do until everybody else is able to see the big picture like we can? Until they come over to our side, at least become reasonable again, right? Reasonable people.
Reasonable. And I think that, and I want to be clear in that what that means, right? Because that's very relative. I think if you
What's
say
relative?
Come over to the right side, or you know what I mean? Well, what is right that is so subjective. I think
it's right subjective.
Yes. So I have had too many conversations with people with differing beliefs than I do, and
differing beliefs. But I think when you I think when you talk about the humanity of people,
yes,
that's not objective.
That's where I was going. It's it's focusing the humanity and empathy.
Yeah.
And doing and making decisions and moving from a place that's not solely about what's going to benefit you, but also what's going to benefit your neighbor. And that, until we're able to do that as a people, as a country, I don't know, it's going to be real tough. for community to build. Like, and honestly, I see why the Surgeon General is saying that this is a endemic. Like, it's because we are not, as a people, as a country, empathetic people.
No, we're not empathetic, and we have been taught that it is ingrained. It is a value of this country that you have to be individualistic. Pick yourself up by your bootstrap. Make it happen. You have to make it. You have to do it. I mean, it's a lot of, what got Black women into this, what we deal with every day. Like, you got to do it. But I think community has to start with where you are. Like, I think that's how it, like, look, that's all I got right now. Community starts with you. Community starts with your building your community and hoping that, spreads out. Because honestly, I don't know. You can't, I'm reading a book called Let Them by Mel Robbins. It's another story. But one of the things she says, the premise of the book is you can't control other people.
Yes.
Right? As much as we try to give people as much information, right, that was out here about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, and people still made the decision that they did. Yes, there was a lot of information. There was a lot of misinformation. But all you have to do is look at Donald Trump, a video, listen to him, watch him, listen to him talk. That's not misinformation.
That does not, when I tell you that does not make a difference, like that is when people, and again, this is from me talking, because I was really curious. I still am curious. So I'm very curious about like, how do you reconcile the things that you see, the things that you hear him say and him acting as like the leader of this country. And a lot of the responses I got was, oh, that's just him, that's just entertainment. That's just him, whatever, saying whatever he's going to say, policies and him being more conservative, like all the things, like those are the things that really matter. I don't care what he says, and so it's like that I mean, there's him. Like, Trump is not the problem with this country.
Right.
And that's going to be like for the next 4 years where it's going to go back and forth and people are going to blame Trump for this and that and third. Like, honestly, he's not the problem. It's,
he
again,
is the problem now because he's the president, but
I mean, he's going to cause problems, but like, he's going to, he's not that, but honestly,
he is the personification of the real problem.
Yes, which is a lack of humanity, a lack of care and empathy for your fellow neighbor and other people around you. And until we can figure out a way to like solve that, I mean, maybe the direction is going into community, but I think that is the very reason why we don't have community. And I think maybe bringing it back to us and bringing it back to like Black women, and it's like, all right, we're tired, we want to sit it out. Maybe that's where the rebuilding starts. Maybe that's where we focus. We focus on closer to home. And we focus on, building that community or rebuilding. Because I don't think we necessarily I didn't read that particular article that you are citing, but I do remember some talk about that. And also the focus was like really on like male loneliness, which I'm like, well, why are you focusing on that? But anyway, we don't lack community as a people, as a women, as Black women. I think taking solace in that and like getting back down to like the things that are that are safe, that we know to be safe, that we know, that we can put our energy and effort into, and we won't be so disappointed. Yeah, I think that will help us as all the people, all the Black women who are saying we're tired, get somebody else to do it. I'm done. This country doesn't care. I think if we kind of focus more on community and our own immediate kind of people and feeling safe, I think that may be enough to restore some of that hope as far as like a political or even, again, I bring this up.
The hope is in you. The hope then gets turned this way instead of this way. I just think, and I do think there's more opportunities for community. I feel like we could never bring enough people in, because even though, I think women have community, there are a lot of people who don't have community. Which this is a different podcast, but like how it's so hard to make friends as an adult, how to find community as an adult. I mean, we could talk about it
next podcast.
So, okay. So how are you personally moving forward? Go.
Yes.
Quick.
All right. Okay.
Not
all
quick.
Right.
I'm sorry. Just go.
I think, just what I just said. It's I'm going to start focusing on my immediate surroundings. I'm going to focus on the people and spaces that I feel safe and comfortable in, where I don't have to carry a torch, where I don't have to, feel a sense of urgency or fight, and put my energy and efforts there. And I'm very optimistically hopeful that will give me the motivation to continue pushing forward. Because again, honestly, long term, I don't know if I have the fight quote unquote fight
Mhm,
in me
mhm.
anymore, but I still have motivation to see this country do well and to see, our people as a whole do well. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to
Yeah.
focus on my like immediate community.
Mhm. I think that's fair. I think, for me, I think there's a difference. Like, you need to rest, right? You need to
Yeah.
rest. You need to recharge. And I think we need to make sure that we don't become apathetic. I, don't know what this man is going to do. I don't know what the future is going to hold. Maybe it's a bunch of hype. I don't know. Maybe he's going to burn it down. But I feel like there are more fights ahead
Yeah. Yeah.
and bigger fights, important fights. And I feel like we need to rest and recharge and figure out how we're going to make it through. Me, myself personally, my focus is on my kids because
Yeah.
I feel like are the ones who are going to have to grow up in this world and grow up in this
Oof.
environment.
Right.
And so for me, it is important. It's always been important for me. I think grades are important and school is important and achievement is important. But for me, I just want my kids to be good people,
Right.
be empathetic people, know how to critically think and are financially and understand finances. Like,
Yeah.
to me, those are important. I don't know if they're pillars, but they're important
Yeah.
things that I need to instill and the closeness of them too. Like,
Yeah.
y'all are like this. This is who you have. This is who is going to be with you through this world. So that's my first focus. I mean, that's where my thought went to immediately after the election. That's where a lot of my focus is. So how do I prepare for my kids for a world that I don't even know what it looks like? I have
Right.
no idea. Me and Derek have these conversations about what they're going to be when they grow up. And he's like, we should teach them coding. I said, coding?
That's very specific. Okay.
He's like coding and STEM.
I
And
get what
I'm
you're
all
saying, like tech
yeah,
and like
I'm
that
all
stuff.
for STEM, but I'm like, coding, dude, they got AI to code for
Right.
us. Like, what is after coding? But
Right.
there. So my kids, my peace, right? I was already doing that before the election, finding
Yeah.
more ways to be peaceful, to be joyful on my own, right? And I think that's even more so in this election. Something that's always important to me is staying informed. When Donald Trump first got elected, the thing I had to give up was NPR because I couldn't. I'm like, I feel like they normalized him so much, it was just disturbing to my ears. So I had to give up NPR, so I stopped listening to them. But I do think it's important for us to stay informed. It is important for us to know what the hell this man's going to do so we can protect as many rights as we can. So stay informed, but at the same time, know when to limit. No one is too much. Donald Trump, oh my God, it's like whiplash when he's in office. He did this. He banned people. He drink bleach. The dogs eat your dogs and cats. Like, every day it's a new headline, and you gotta pace yourself. You gotta pace yourself. So that's it. The last thing, be intentional about what gets my attention, where I go, the spaces I'm in, where my mind is. Just be more intentional about things. That's how I plan to move forward through these Trump years and beyond. Because what the hell's coming after him?
Who knows? That's interesting. I think that's good. I think that's a very good approach.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have that whole facet of like, kids and thinking about their specific futures. I do think about like the younger generations and like what they're dealing with now, what they're going to have to deal with. And so that gives me a little bit of adjective, but like it's interesting that you say that, like, about protecting your peace. I don't know where I get this from. Maybe it's just being an only child, but like when I tell you, even though I have like fight in me and I put out energy and effort, the way I protect my peace, I literally it makes me think of this one conversation I had last summer. I was out with some girlfriends. We were having like a heated, really good conversation. This guy walked up, he overheard like we were talking about, and he decided to share his opinion. When I tell you, it was so quick and so natural for me to protect my peace, I walked away. He was mid-sentence. I looked at him, I was like out of my, like, whatever. I was like, I'm gonna get another beer.
Goodbye.
Like, I have zero tolerance for anything that's
are.
going to raise my blood pressure. Like, I already got to deal with the fact that I'm getting older and my blood pressure's going to raise naturally. I'm not going to let anything. So, yes, protecting my peace, I'm going to continue to do that. Yeah, do we have a prompt for everyone? I know when we get to the time ready for prompt because I'm out of wine.
Yep.
So we're ready for a
You
prompt.
really pace yourself well.
I do. We should actually talk about like what I drink every time. Tonight I had a Pinot Gris by OPP, Maison Noir. But
was it? That means nothing to me. Was it red or white?
so white. Why?
Oh, I didn't see it. I don't know.
Yes. So this is how I gauge, when we're ready to wrap it up. I'm out of wine. Okay, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up.
So, I mean, I guess the prompt for this week is, to really sit with protecting your peace and like how has this moment in time, right, of the election or just like this, what's going on? There's a lot of stuff going on right now in this country and outside of the country.
Yeah.
Has this stuff impacted you internally? Has this shifted anything for you? And, do you feel differently as a result of everything that's going on around you? And if so, how are you both protecting your peace and also think about like, how are you going to, if at all, move differently through the world?
Yeah.
So that is like my prompt for everyone who's listening to just kind of, just take a moment and be mindful about like where you sit with all of this.
Yeah. It's never build your reserves. What are your defense mechanisms for this world that we're entering? So we're going to wrap it up there. Make sure we can actually continue the conversation on social media, guys.
Yes.
Watch this.
I actually really want to hear from people because we just been here sitting here talking. But I really want to hear from people. I really want someone to find that stat about the 92%.
Please, guys.
Like, please.
Are our research skills that terrible? Isn't it?
No, like, but no, that is like the point. Like we have actively been looking and we have not found anything. So I'm just like, okay, yeah, exit polls, but like who did that? Who rounded up all the exit? Anyway,
send it to us.
Send it to us. Let's have a conversation.
Follow us on IG, Facebook at Grown and Growing Podcast. Please leave your comments. You can actually watch this episode on YouTube at Grown and Growing Podcast. Please share the podcast. Leave us a positive review, please.
Yes.
I think this is a really good conversation.
I mean, I always want to know what you guys think, but like with this specifically, and not even just like, yes, we've been talking a lot about the perspective of like Black women because that's who we are. But I'm very curious and interested in hearing like different perspectives from men, from people who are non-Black, like everybody. I'm really curious of like how all of this is sitting with you all because this impacts us all.
It does. It really does. And that's ultimately what we want people to understand. We are all impacted. So thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next time.